It's official, and following what has been a very interesting past couple of games, past couple of weeks, and overall a wild season for the Toronto Blue Jays in particular, their pitching staff, it's official. We have a huge update surrounding one player that is not only game changing, but has huge implications going forward. We'll dive into that exact update. Is also, we have some big updates surrounding some other Blue Jays as well. Ton to go over today, folks. Before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, you guys have been absolute beasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your continued support over here as we're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. You guys have been absolute beasts. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot to go over today. Now, of course, the Toronto Blue Jays are in a very interesting spot. I mean, they now lost the series to the Chicago White Sox randomly, but at the same time and in the same vein here, they are pushing for the AL East spot. They're lucky in the sense of a lot of the times that they've lost, they've still been able to kind of, the teams around them have, lost as well. We finally have it official, folks, and it is surrounding Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer will officially return to the Toronto Blue Jays rotation Wednesday in Cleveland. Schneider said that's a huge, huge addition for us. It's Max Scherzer. I'll take that any day of the week. So, folks, finally some big updates here. I've been covering on the channel a lot. My prediction has always been Tuesday. I was off by a day, but we'll take it. He's going to be returning officially on Wednesday. And of course, the Jays are off today, so it's just a couple days now till they start. We're going to dive into how this is a little bit weird. And I mean, there's a bunch of different things to go over with this. But folks, Max Scherzer, late June was always the targeted date. Keegan Matheson on my show came out and said it, and a bunch of different reports have kind of started to surface. He is going to be making his debut for I guess not his debut, his second start of the year, but his debut since, his injury for the Toronto Blue Jays on, of course, Wednesday. And this is interesting because Wednesday is an interesting spot to start Max Scherzer. You'd like to separate Eric Lauer and Scherzer with Kevin Gausman in the middle. Curious to see how the Blue Jays map it out here. And of course, they can use their off days to really, use it as their own advantage and figure out how to get things to work. Luckily, they have an off day today, which, again, coming off a brutal series against the White Sox, you had to at least win 2 out of 3, probably. And I mentioned it, like, you got to try to sweep that series. It is what it is, though. The Rays lost. You continue to push. We're going to put that loss behind us. Enjoy the off day here. But they're starting him on Wednesday. Now, a lot of people thought they were going to be starting him Tuesday because then you can separate Eric Lauer and then, of course, have Scherzer, Gausman, Lauer or something of that nature. But they're going to rock Scherzer in the spot on Wednesday. Now, I'm not entirely sure the exact reason for this. It seems to be because, again, they missed the opportunity to take advantage of the White Sox, but maybe it seems to be because they could have some pitch limitations for Max Scherzer. I cannot, fathom the fact. Rather, I don't think they're going to go out and pitch Max Scherzer for a ton of innings, right? I think they're probably going to pitch him for what I would say is 4 innings on his debut, maybe 5 innings. Of course, it's not going to be based on innings. It's going to be based on pitch count. And I don't think that, his pitch count, he hasn't really been, mapped up to it yet. You can see this here. Max Scherzer threw 30 to 40 pitches in his bullpen yesterday. Confirmed he'll pitch Wednesday in Cleveland. My stuff is fine, he told me and Shai Davidi. I'm trying everything I can to manage this thumb, and I can make sure that I can recover. There's no knowing, just have to get out there. So, again, they don't know how his thumb's going to be. They don't know how the recovery is going to be. But what we do know is that the beast himself, Max Scherzer, is going to be pitching. For one, it's just fantastic to see him pitching in a Jays uniform. But I think they're probably going to use some sort of, maybe Max Scherzer, Spencer Turnbull, run through here. I don't think they're going to try to get Max Scherzer to go to 5 or 6 innings. I'm thinking it's more of a 4-inning affair, and that's why they're not too concerned about separating them. Again, you'd probably like to separate Eric Lauer and Max Scherzer just because of the fact that even if Max Scherzer is going to be going a lower amount of innings, that's going to use up the bullpen. And then if Eric Lauer doesn't do well, which is very, very possible, the bullpen's going to be rough anyway because, again, you don't want them back-to-back. And Spencer Turnbull is on the spot right now on the Fangraphs here. It's not fully updated to Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer will factor in. And, of course, it has Eric Lauer as a bullpen guy. He is going to be the starter, I assume, going forward. So you have Berríos, Bassitt, Gausman, of course, Scherzer, and Eric Lauer. Now, how they're going to, manage this down the stretch, they're, of course, going to make acquisitions, all these different things. But that leaves the bullpen right now with Jeff Hoffman, Yeri Rodriguez, Brendan Little, Braden Fisher, and some of the other guys. Now, they're going to be making some moves here soon with Jimmy Garcia. But let me know down below, A, are you surprised about them starting him on Wednesday? But B, if you're excited to see Max Scherzer. I mean, again, he pitched 1 game, and fun fact, I was at that game. Of course, it was the 3rd game of the year. I was at that game, and he went 3 innings, and he looked pretty, gave up back-to-back moonshot home runs against the Orioles in the 3rd game of the year. I remember it vividly. And then, of course, back then we saw Jacob Burns and Richard Lovelady warming up, and we're thinking, why is he getting taken out? Boom, it was because of the injury. And again, you look at some of his previous years, he hasn't pitched too much in the past few years. You have to hope you can get something out of Max Scherzer because the Jays thus far this season have gotten nothing out of their new acquisitions. We'll dive into in a minute. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on this. Super exciting. Max Scherzer is back. And it's going to be interesting to see how specifically they manage both the bullpen, but also the starting rotation here in those games, because it's going to be like you don't want to overwork your starters. You don't want to overwork your bullpen. And speaking of bullpen, John Schneider came out with a few other updates here and spoke out on Jeff Hoffman, who blew another save yesterday. We trust Jeff Hoffman a lot, I'll rather. I do. It's easy to point blame at him, but he's on the other side of us winning a whole lot of games. It's a tough stretch for him, but we know he'll come out of it. And I'm curious to see what you guys think about this, because there's been a lot of discourse on Twitter and all these, all these different things about how Jeff Hoffman is worse than Jordan Romano, how he's horrible contract, failed physical with the Orioles. They should have stayed off the field physical. Where do you guys currently stand? I think Jeff Hoffman's going to figure it out, but I also think for the meantime, would not mind having Yariel Rodriguez take that closer's role. And it might sound crazy, but he has been so dominant. You think back to his time when he wasn't in the MLB and he was overseas and all these different things in the other leagues where he was so good as I think like setup man of the year or something crazy. He's had the award over there where he played. But, Yariel Rodriguez is a dog. Like, he is an absolute animal on the baseball field as a reliever. He thrives in high leverage situations. Let him go while you have Jeff Hoffman in the 7th or 8th inning. And Jeff Hoffman responded to that and said, "It fuels me and drives me to want to do my best. It hurts even more when you don't do your job and costs us the game." I have faith in Jeff Hoffman, though. Move the bullpen around. Make Yariel Rodriguez the closer. Figure something out, because the tandem of Brendan Little and Brendan Little rather, with Jeff Hoffman has not been working. It just hasn't been. Brendan Little's been, a bit off lately. Jeff Hoffman's been off lately. You have guys like Braden Fisher, Mason Flaherty. Of course, you're desperately missing Jimmy Garcia, and it's crazy that Eric Swanson was DFA. Like, he was supposed to be the setup man for this team. If you would have asked me that a year ago, right? So, or even 2 years ago, of course, following the 2023 season when he was an absolute beast. At the end of the day, folks, like, their bullpen is in very, very good shape overall, but the guys that were really carrying it for the first half of the season are starting to tail off a little bit. Brendan Little, Jeff Hoffman, and hopefully this can be figured out soon. But good comments on the manager. You have to stay level-headed here. The Jays are in a fine spot. They need to keep going. It was a big missed opportunity to at least take 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. They're still in a good spot. But with the Rays and Red Sox playing well and the Yankees sputtering, this series was a chance to keep pace in the AL East. Crucial road trip coming up against Cleveland and Boston. The biggest series of the year right now. And following that Boston series, the Jays play the Yankees. You need to come out of this, and which is why it's so important that Max Scherzer, and maybe even part of the reason they're bringing him back now, you need to win these games against the Cleveland Guardians. You need to win the game against the Boston Red Sox. If they go out and they lose 2 out of 3 in both of these series, or however long the games series are, if you lose these series, you're in a very bad spot, quite frankly. Just not in a very good spot, because you're going to quickly fall down the wild card spot. Both of these teams are chasing either on the outside looking in or in a wild card spot right now, and you have to get going. And they also need to get some contributions from the guys who they signed. You would have been better off not signing any of these guys. I mean, granted, I'm talking about Anthony Santander, minus some of the worst player in baseball when he was, on the field. Max Scherzer doesn't really count. Jeff Hoffman's been bad. Andres Jimenez, his defense, but like, the guys haven't been. Like, imagine this team if they would have hit so far on the free agent acquisitions. You're talking about, maybe 10 games above 500, 12, 15 games above 500, whatever it was, 46 and 31 rather than where they are now. A few games below, only 5 games, I believe, above now 500. So it's going to be interesting. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Things are getting crazy, folks. But what's even crazier and not as, pessimistic is that Max Scherzer is going to be returning on Wednesday. And boy, oh boy, is that going to be an exciting game. And he is a beast. So it's going to be, curious to see how he performs out there. And folks, it's official. He's returning. Let me know down below your thoughts. Cheers.